Adventures with Purpose found Kyly Rodni in her vehicle, upside down, submerged, with the hatch closed and a belt hanging out the back. What really happened to Kyly Rodni?
Reporter Room with Jessica Della Davies starts now.
I am getting red flags from this timing on the release of what happened to Kyly Rodni. I told you I thought the November 1st timing was sketch. It certainly appears to be so. As soon as the mainstream media was focused on another case, which was missing little Quentin, the Nevada County Sheriff's Office rushed out with their release of what they are telling us happened to Kyly Rodni. Now, if you are new to Reporter Room, a critical thinker, and someone who is interested in learning all of the different points of view, then you are in the right place, and I am so glad that you are here. I am confident that they were hoping, and when I say they, I'm talking about the Nevada County Sheriff's Office, that we would all be distracted and not covering what happened to Kyly. Everything I'm sharing with you today is my opinion, and opinions are not facts. So please don't send any negativity to anyone, anytime. Let's be kind and good to each other. This video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss a new video or a live stream, and hit the like button so I know you were here. For those of you who are new to Reporter Room, our viewers tend to be critical thinkers. And what I mean by that is they want information from a variety of different sources so that they can add that to their investigation and make up their own mind. And I'm very, very curious as to what you guys are thinking right now. Let's go ahead and talk about what the report shows. We always knew that it was going to be very hard to determine what happened to her due to the amount of time that she spent in the water. We know that she went in the water on August 6th. We have that on video, right? And we know that Adventures with Purpose found her on August 21st, and we have that on video also. I'm reading a lot of comments on social media as to why Kyly's lungs were not filled with water, and a lot of people feel really suspicious about this. So I want to talk about this with you so that we can come to a conclusion together. She was submerged underwater from the 6th till the 21st. That's a long time. We know that the lungs do gas exchange in the alveoli. So we have the bronchioles, and then we have the branches of the bronchioles, and then we have these little grape-like sacs called alveoli, and this is where oxygen is exchanged with CO2. We exhale carbon dioxide, we inhale oxygen. Would her lungs be filled with water? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. It may not mean anything at all, and I want to share with you why. For those of you who have been following Reporter Room for a long time, you know that in the Summer Wells case, I've talked a lot about secondary drowning, but I want to talk a little bit about dry drowning, because I think that may have occurred here, and it does occur in about 20% of all drowning cases. And this is when the laryngo, which is this part, spasms. It spasms when water's trying to enter, and it will close shut, and it will not allow water to enter. So the person isn't inhaling the water, but they still pass because oxygen is not getting to the brain. So they will still pass of suffocation. We also have Kyly, who was submerged underwater for a long time, from the 6th to the 21st. And we know that these little alveoli sacs, they pass gases. Well, the water can also get through. So we have water that could have been going into the lungs. We also have the fact that water could have also been exiting the lungs. So the fact that the lungs don't weigh more than a typical pair of lungs is really neither here nor there in what happened to Kyly. So for me, that in and of itself is not raising a red flag. Now, I have red flags around some other things, but that is not one of them. I've read a lot of social media comments that people are really frustrated about the autopsy report because it didn't give the information that people were expecting. And what I think happened in this situation is they were left because law enforcement failed to find Kylie, and yes, failed. And they did not find her. And then they told Adventures with Purpose that they had cleared Lake Prosser, and Adventures with Purpose started over at the Donner and Boca reservoirs, respectively, and then came over to Lake Prosser, again, delaying when they searched Lake Prosser. Because of these delays, we are left with them being forced to just simply rule things out, then land on a manner of death. So they couldn't consider that any trauma happened to the exterior of her body because of the condition of how she was found. So let's talk about Kylies Risk a little bit, and then I want to get into some of the mess ups of law enforcement and some things that I think are kind of shady on law enforcement and the Truckee way. So we're going to talk about that in just a moment, so please stay with me. So high-risk drownings, it can vary by age. Nearly half of all fatal and non-fatal drownings for ages 15 and higher occur in a lake. Because alcohol impairs their judgment, it impairs their reaction time. When she knew that she was going into the water, how fast did she hit the brakes? Did this impair her reaction time? We know that there was a window that was smashed out, that this happened when the car rolled. Did somebody smash out the window? But water would have been pouring in, and we know that this back window behind her was down as far as it would go, which is about halfway down. So water would have been pouring in, and maybe she didn't know she could get out. But the average person can hold their breath for about 30 seconds. You can go longer. You can hold 1 to 2 minutes. A lot of people can hold their breath for 2 minutes. But on average, in these kind of circumstances where people are panicking, it goes around 30 seconds. So Healthline says that drowning is a form of death by suffocation, and death occurs after the lungs take in water. But as I said, you can have also what's called, and this is just a term that's used by the mainstream media, but it's called a dry drowning. And this is when the laryngospasm happens and the water isn't pouring into the lungs, but it's pouring into the throat. The spasm causes it to close, and then the body suffocates from the inside outward. Let's talk about some of the things that law enforcement ruled out, okay, to help them get to this particular consensus of where they've determined that she drowned. And let's look at some of the pieces of the puzzle that we just don't have, and they don't have either. And this is because of how long it took them to find her. First, we were waiting for the toxicology, because as I shared with you, they needed that. They need that to charge somebody. They need that to hold somebody accountable. And unfortunately, a lot of people were talking about using the vitreous humors, which come from the eyes. If you read through the report, and I'm not going to read it out to you. There's a lot of other channels that have already done that. You've probably seen it already. But that's the gold standard, is to get the fluid from the eyes in the case of when a body is submerged. They weren't able to get that. And we know from the autopsy report, it's because there was some damage to the eyes. So instead, they had to take their tox sample from her liver. So this is not the gold standard. It's still acceptable, but it's not the gold standard. So could there have been more in her tox screen? Possibly. Her report says that her eyes were, and I'm reading this, discolored from the decomposition. That's an exact quote. So, as likely as the lungs are to expand with water, right, and get bigger and increase their weight, it's just as likely that the water can cause the lungs to collapse. They can cause the lungs to collapse, and that may have been what happened here. They do say that there was a moderate decomp of the lungs in the parenchyma. So what is the parenchyma? It's just simply an architecture of the lungs where it's literally just tissues. Law enforcement messed up so badly here that, you know, I don't know if we'll ever get the full story of everything that happened to Kylie. Would we have had more information had she been found sooner? Yeah, we would. So this whole report and this determination on what happened to Kylie, her manner, and I'm watching my words here, this is all done by just excluding things. They just had to rule out this and rule out that. And some of it was excluded because of the condition that she was found in. Will there be any accountability in Truckee for contributing to the delinquency of a minor? Will there be any accountability for providing substances like alcohol to a 16-year-old girl? I'm very sad to say it doesn't feel like it. It doesn't feel like it. I feel like this report was, and this is just my opinion, that this report was snuck out while everybody on the mainstream media was covering Quentin's case. Will there be any accountability for what happened to Kylie in Truckee? In my opinion, no. They're not going to hold anybody accountable because it's not the Truckee way. So there will be no charging for the delinquency of a minor. No one gets in trouble for providing substances that did contribute, in my opinion, to what happened to her, because it would have slowed and impaired her reaction time, right? It would have impaired her judgment, right? The way they slid this information out while the mainstream media was focused on Quentin and what was going on with Quentin and Leilani was sketchy. And it's what we all thought they were going to try to do, and it's exactly what they did. Subscribe and let me know what you think in the comment section below.